Wow, this house is cute. But can I really get in the game in this economy? I do have savings, and I am responsible-ish. Ugh, I should bury it. I'm being wild. But what if I'm not being wild, though? Could I actually score a...
Kick off your home buying journey with Zillow's new BuyAbility tool. It makes it easy to find out what you can afford, so you can get off the bench and onto the playing field with confidence. Check your BuyAbility, only on Zillow.
This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
This half hour being brought to you by our good friends at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors, Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai, the best in new inventory. Great pre-owned inventory with the all-important Sunbury Motors guarantee, because they go over each vehicle with a fine-tooth comb. And they make a one-stop shopping, a great service department that backs it up every step of the way. Where there happens to be inspections, quick lane, routine, difficult, they handle it all. At Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. 14 years ago, she was covering the NCAA tournament at Penn State's trip to Tucson for the Daily Collegian. Now she's one of the absolute best in the business, working with ESPN's NHL coverage, and that is Emily Kaplan. Emily, it's so great to hear you.
Steve, it's so great to hear you, too, and thank you for that kind intro. I have such fond memories of that trip to cover the NCAA tournament. Taylor Battle, I think that was his senior year. They went out, one and done in that first round, but it was a really fun time, and I owe so much of, my success to all the things that I learned at Penn State, specifically at the Collegian, and all the opportunities they gave me.
It's interesting because, your background is in writing, all right? And to me, and I tell my broadcasting class all the time, take writing classes. You need all of it. What, though, was able to allow you to transition to broadcasting, and how much does writing help you with that?
Oh, my goodness. That's such good advice to any student or anyone trying to break into this business. I think just in any business in general, if you know how to write, so many doors open for you. I think getting on TV is all about reps. I remember the first regular TV reps I got were in Around the Horn, and I'm feeling very sentimental right now because the show is coming to an end, and it has such a special place in my heart, and so many different people have been able to appear on that show. I think from a writing background, we learn how to self-edit, and sometimes you only get a very short window where we're allowed to go on air and present our point. And so I'm constantly thinking of word choice, how to best present that information, and I don't think I would have done it as well as I have if I didn't have a background in writing.
And somebody who, by the way, that you then associated with at one point, my old Little League teammate, Peter King, all these connections along the way. But Peter was somebody, to his credit, that got into verbal and also television media. How much did that experience help you, just working and being around somebody like that?
Oh, he was the best mentor anybody could ever ask for. I was lucky enough that I grew up in the town that he was living in when he was writing for Sports Illustrated and also working on NBC and Football Night in America. And I remember his advice to me when I got to Penn State was get experience doing everything. Work for the TV station, work for the radio station, work for the student newspaper. And I didn't listen to him. I just wrote. Again, I'm really proud of my writing background, but then I had to get a lot of my first reps, being on air in a professional setting, which I wish I'd gotten early on, but Peter is just a master storyteller. I think the one thing that I really took away from him is to never forget the human element. I think that's what gravitates us to sports. The way that we can tell stories about life through the realm of sports, about success and sacrifice and anguish and overcoming obstacles, and all of those are human elements, and Peter never forgets that, and he just treats everyone like a human being. He's genuinely curious. He just wants to know why and how, and those natural follow-ups I know that I carry with me every single NHL broadcast that I do.
Yeah, in fact, I think he's working at Seton Hall now, helping out there. So he's, again, passing along all that great knowledge he has. And by the way, growing up, he was a better hitter than me. Well,
you guys can get on the diamond now and see
who
does better.
Yeah, I still sense it's going to be the redhead. It's not going to be me. Look, an area where a lot of people, I have an appreciation for this. I think that your in-game interviews with coaches are thoroughly outstanding because you have a time frame, it's short, and you get right to the point, and you understand that the answer is what people are listening for, not the question. And I think that part, I think you've mastered. What has it taken for you to understand that time frame, to ask the quick, to-the-point question that gets the right answer?
Well, Steve, I appreciate you saying that, and I think that part of my job is to understand my role, and I've had to humble myself. And yes, I do get this platform of being on national TV, but as the reporter, I have the privilege and the access to be in-game and ask these questions that all the fans watching want to know. And so for me, it's not about myself. Like, I can go up there, and my biggest pet peeves when reporters go, like, I noticed that you guys switched, your neutral zone coverage in the second period, and that's why you've, stymied them on defense. What are your thoughts? And it's like, okay, well, who cares what I think? We want to hear what they think. Right. So, my philosophy has always been open, lean, and neutral. Again, understanding the time constraints, like no need for extraneous words, get to the point. Neutral, don't lead them on in either way, but open questions as well, where it can't just be a yes or no, where we're forcing them to explain, what they're seeing. And I think that, again, from my position of privilege, where I get to be there, I get to inform the audience and let them, hear from these guys that they want to hear from. So that's always been my philosophy. I think that sometimes I hear, like, oh, Emily Kaplan asks such dumb questions. I'm like, well, they're kind of dumb by design. Trust me, like, I know what I'm doing here, and I think what I'm getting out of it is a better understanding of the game, because really in hockey, all we're talking about is grow the game, and we want to hear from these guys and understand it better and spread the wealth and spread the, gospel that this is an amazing sport with amazing people in it.
No, and Nathan McKinnon just proved that, by the way, that's an unbelievable story, which I'll get to a little bit later. But I point you out to my broadcasting class, and I said, listen to the question she asks. I said, because she's standing there, I already know that she knows what she's talking about. Now she's trying to get them to tell everybody else what's going on out there. I said, that's the purpose of the question. That's what I tell the class all the time, and I do cite you as a great example. I said, limited time frame. She doesn't have to prove to the world that she knows something. Just by the pure question, it already tells you that she knows something.
Well, that's super kind, Steve, and thank you for, using me as an example. I think that, again, as a sideline reporter, amazing that we get to be on TV and we get to, be a part of all these incredible broadcasts. And they travel me around North America to cover the coolest games, and it's amazing. At the same time, I just feel like it's my responsibility to not make it about myself.
Right.
And I think I put in a lot of prep that doesn't get seen, during the week and right before, even you and I got on the phone. Like, I'm covering the Penguins-Devils game tomorrow. And so I'm calling all these people to try to get background information on these guys so that when I do get in those positions to ask questions, I know what I ask can elicit a good answer. And so I think that's another lesson to students is there's so much work that goes behind the scenes that doesn't get seen. But if you are well prepared in the end, you'll get better material out of it. And even, it's almost just like show, don't tell.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I try to tell them, because between football, baseball, basketball, I'm probably doing about 90 games a year. I said, it's all the hours that people don't see, that people don't realize that you put into something like that. I have to ask you about Four Nations, because when I first heard Four Nations, and again, just heard about it, I thought, that's an interesting gimmick. And then I watched it, and I went, oh, my goodness. What was it like for you seeing it firsthand, the intensity of it?
Yeah, I think people who are around hockey understood that this was going to be a really competitive tournament because, again, I talk to these guys all of the time, and I know that the one thing that the top players have been most passionate about are representing their countries. And so many of these stars that we have right now, like Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews, haven't been able to do that in their prime. And I knew, even though this tournament was in the middle of an NHL season, even though it's only 4 countries, we're excluding a lot of really great hockey players and hockey nations, they were going to show out and they were going to put on a performance. I felt really privileged because I was in such a good position to cover well. Again, I know all of these guys. I knew the stories. Once all the eyes were on hockey, I just felt like me and our entire broadcast crew, we had put in the work over the last several years to be able to really present this to America in the way that it needed to be presented. And it was just so cool by the end to see the momentum it got because so many more eyeballs were on hockey. And I think people realize that they underestimate the passion and emotion that hockey players play with.
I mean, you will do a lot of post-game with them as well. Now, the questions are a little more extensive in post-game. You have more time. But something that people have told me for years, and I know I've experienced it, as well, hockey players are the best people to talk to. They seem to understand that they need to go out of their way more. Is that how you find them?
I do. I find them to be very humble. I think that, the biggest difference from covering the NFL, where I used to cover, to hockey is that in NFL, you can go up there and stick your microphone in anyone's face and tell me why you're great. And they're like, well, I'm great because of X, Y, and Z. Hockey, that's just not going to cut it. These guys don't even use the pronoun I sometimes. They say we or you. It's just like this weird tick. They're so deferential. But we want to highlight their stories. And so I think when you understand how to craft the question to get them to open up, to kind of explain a little bit about who they are, what motivates them, you realize how special these individuals are. And I think that selflessness is what makes the sport so fantastic because it really is. I mean, think of a star player like Connor McDavid. He's only playing a third of a game. He's so reliant on his teammates. So I'm appreciative that they're very down to earth, very approachable. But I would like them to brag a little bit more because I do think what they do is pretty spectacular.
Yeah, it is. There's no question about that. They're magicians out there. I mean, I asked Jack Michaels, and Jack's an Oil City guy from Pennsylvania who does the Edmonton Oilers games, and the privilege of watching McDavid and Draisaitl every single night, and it is a privilege to watch those guys. With the way the regular season has gone, and you've seen the cream rising to the top, how exciting, not just how exciting, but how close do you expect this Stanley Cup playoff to end up being based on the talent level?
I think what hockey does better than anybody else is creates a tournament where if you get in, and it's really hard to get in, and the parity is strong, you look at the Eastern Conference race right now, and really the West too, like that last spot's up for grabs. It's, only half the teams can make it. But once you're in, it's anybody's game, and it's all about who's most prepared. It's a war of attrition, who's the most healthy, and which stars or maybe even the supplements and, the secondary players are ready to step up. And I think that's what makes the Stanley Cup playoffs so magical, so captivating. 2 years ago we had a team like the Florida Panthers who were the last team in, got in the very last day of the season, and then upset the Boston Bruins, who broke the record for the NHL's most regular season wins and make it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. So it's really hard to handicap who's going to be the favorite, and I think that's why so many eyeballs get on hockey again in Stanley Cup playoffs. And this year, I could not tell you who the favorite is. I couldn't even tell you the teams that are going to make it in the end, and that's the best. It's just so fun.
What is it about the Ovechkin chase that is so intriguing to you as this plays out near the end?
I just think that these are some the unbreakable records in sports, right? Like we thought this, when Wayne Gretzky scored all those goals, you're like, no one will ever do it like this. The game has changed. Guys don't score goals like this anymore. So even just the fact that we're here and now it's inevitable, I think is incredible. And then I just think what a character Alex Ovechkin is. I mean, I'm there. I cover a ton of Washington Capitals games. Like, he's literally still drinking soda on the bench. Before road trips, he has his, go-to order of, the spicy Italian sub from Subway and, hot Cheetos. And, we think of elite athletes these days and, their body is their temple. And Alex Ovechkin's very serious. He trains really hard. He came back from a broken leg this season and hasn't missed a step. But just kind of the folklore of Alex Ovechkin and just kind of, how every man he can be in so many ways, at the same time just be, so spectacular. And the fact that, scoring, some of these goals on empty nets, but he really is a competitor, and he really is the heartbeat of that team. He wants to win more than anything else. He wants another Stanley Cup, and I think you saw that the other night when, he had a chance for another goal. It was an empty net situation, and he passed it to his teammate, a young guy named Alexei Protas, who's having a breakout year, because Alexei Protas got the empty net goal, and that was his first ever hat trick, and I think that's a really good captain.
See, now that's team. That's the we part of it you were talking about. What's interesting about the broadcast is this. Sean's upstairs. Ray is between the two benches. You're located in another spot where eventually you'll get between the two benches. How interesting is it to coordinate something when there are three broadcasters in three different locations?
Yeah, it's funny because, this is really all that I've known because this broadcast crew I've been with in my entire broadcasting career. I'll jump around sometimes, and I get to work with Bob Wischusen and John Buccigross, Steve Levy, and Mike Monaco is a young guy that's coming up that's really, really talented. But largely it's this setup. I think that we're really lucky, and I'm really lucky to work with Ray Ferraro because he's been doing this for so long, and he prefers to be between the benches because as an ex-player, he feels like he sees things the way that plays develop that make him a better analyst. And he's just been such a great teammate and finding ways to work in my reports and build off my reports and incorporate me into the broadcast. And, I think sometimes they'll step on each other's toes, but largely I'm so impressed by the way that they navigated. And, again, Sean McDonough is, such a professional, covers so many different sports, has done it for so long. And so I just feel really lucky that I've been able to work with them and learn from their experience because they've done this far longer than I have, and they've been very inclusive.
Yeah, Sean. I don't know Ray at all. Sean, I've known for a long time. Sean's the best. I'll be driving along on Sirius XM. You can pick up everybody, and suddenly he'll show up in the Red Sox game, and I'll text him and go, "Now there's normalcy back in the Red Sox booth." It just feels better that way. Emily, congratulations on everything you've accomplished so far. You're doing such great work, and we look forward to what's going to be a great April, May, and June with the Stanley Cup. The only bummer is that, and it's with all due respect, the great people at TNT do a great job, but it's their turn on the final this year. But thanks so much for your time.
No, I appreciate you, Steve. And next time I get to State College, I hope it's soon. Would love to say hi and catch up. But I always appreciate you, and thank you for the support.
Anytime, Emily, and I look forward to seeing you the next time you get into town. The outstanding and one of the best in the business, Emily Kaplan, ESPN, and they've got the game tomorrow, the Devils and the Penguins coming up. And we will come back with more in a moment. This half hour being brought to you by our good friends at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.
Hey, where have you been?
I'm laying low.
Laying low?
Yeah, the heat's on because of my new Hyundai from Sunbury Motors. I got $7,000 off on a new Hyundai Santa Fe. They're gonna think I stole it.
Deal's so right, it almost feels wrong. At Sunbury Motors Hyundai. During the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event, take $3,500 off. Plus 1.99% APR financing for 60 months. Or $7,000 off on all 23 of the 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe's available, which start under $40,000. Take up to $10,000 off or 0% APR financing for 60 months on 7 the new Hyundai Ioniqs, starting under $42,000. And as always, military and first responders get an extra $500 off their purchase. Plus, all new Hyundais come with Hyundai Assurance and America's best warranty, 10 years, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Come down to Sunbury Motors Hyundai today, and together we can be alive in 2025. Sunbury Motors Hyundai in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury.